I wonder, I don't think I'm that much crazy. Like if I had less access to resources than I have, or less access to public respect than I have, and I needed to get people to pay attention to certain topics, could I be seen as crazy as this guy in a different timeline?
You're probably seen as more crazy than this guy. He did not try to start a religion.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. I'm definitely more crazy than him.
Would you like to know more?
Hello, Simone. I'm excited to be talking with you today. We just had another presidential assassination attempt in the United States. I was wondering whether or not I should cover this, and sort of my takeaway has been there just hasn't been a lot of good comprehensive coverage of this. And so whether it's the first debate or the first assassination attempt, I have found in our content, it's usually like the most comprehensive coverage of these subjects that I'm able to find online, and I take a bit of pride in that. So even when I can't be pointlessly controversial, it's worth putting stuff like this together, but I will yet be pointlessly controversial because I'm going to argue I actually kind of like this guy.
Oh, that's nice.
I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he tried to assassinate a president, but I, a conservative, am like, yeah, but change a few priors and what, this is actually a pretty brave thing to do. Now,
yeah, that's what I've heard. What one free press writer said about him, roughly speaking, I'm paraphrasing here, was that he was crazy, but most people were just kind of like, yeah, I get it. Like, good cause. He's crazy, but he's fighting for a good cause. And that he reminded her of a character played by Brad Pitt in...
She is thinking of the movie Burn After Reading.
Brad Pitt played a character who was a personal fitness trainer trying to attack the CIA or something and was kind of clueless. And basically he reminded her of that, and she didn't think that he'd do anything crazy like this, but he did. What you gonna do?
Well, I mean, and we've seen the rehabilitation of specific crazy people recently as well, like the Unabomber. Where this is actually
now everyone loves the Unabomber.
Like,
what's up with this?
I mean, I disagree with his actions, but the Unabomber's manifesto, now that's something we need to talk about here.
Why is this such a trendy thing now? This is so crazy.
No, he's considered, it's weird. He's considered, like, I hear about the Unabomber's manifesto probably as much as I hear about Curtis Yarvin these days.
Like, and Nixon. Like everyone's in love with Nixon now too. What's up with that?
I was always in love with Nixon.
He was a genius of his time.
Nixon was Stephen Colbert's favorite president?
No way.
Yeah, he was. Nixon was a genuinely good president, just a little crazy. Actually, probably one of the best presidents in American history. Normalizing relations with China for the future of like the next 50 years was nothing but genius. And that is not something that naturally would have happened. Oh, yes. Am I outing myself as a Kissinger fan as well?
What you need is a second in command who understands the intricacies of organized villainy.
Perfect. You're hired, Number
Killinger. Dr. Henry Killinger. And this is my magic murder bag. No, you are the magic man. Wow! I suggest you put that into a high-yield mutual fund. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have much work to do.
Well, let's get back to the assassination. Yeah.
Sunday, September 15th, 2024. Shortly before 2 p.m., the incidents occurred at Trump's golf course in West Palm Beach, Florida. Trump was out golfing at the time. He was playing hole 5. Now, I am going to put on screen a picture of where Trump was on the golf course and where the guy was aiming at him on the golf course. During the incident, Ryan Wesley Rouse was hiding in the bushes in this area I am showing on the map here.
Okay.
Agents saw his rifle peeking out of the bushes. It was an AK-47 variant, and they fired 4 to 5 rounds at the suspect. At which point, the suspect, Ryan, fired 4 to 5 rounds at Ryan, at which point Ryan began to run. He ran to a car he had, and I will show you where it is on the map here, right next to where he was hiding, and he was actually able to escape. And we're going to talk about, like, people aren't talking about what a Secret Service failure this was, but it was. When he ran, he dropped a GoPro, the rifle, and his weapon scope. So he got really far before they caught him.
Nice. Wow.
I feel you're like, nice. Like,
I mean, this guy clearly has a very American can-do spirit.
So he shot at Trump in Mar-a-Lago. You've been to Miami, right? He made it
Palm Beach.
Yeah. He made it above like Fort Lauderdale before they caught him.
I mean, honestly, that's just a Christmas miracle making it through Palm Beach traffic. Palm Beach is a nightmare. Remember when we
That's what I was thinking of. Like, how did
when
he get out of there?
when we were driving, because we had a rental car, right? When we went to Mar-a-Lago, we had a rental car. Yes, we did.
Yeah, so we
and
went
it
to
took us
Mar-a-Lago
like
to do the
an
Trump thing.
hour to get like 2 miles or something. It was ridiculous.
Oh, absolutely. I'm kind of amazed. I'm also kind of amazed that the Secret Service didn't get him. So the Secret Service was able to.
And all they did was walk, get his like stalled car.
Yeah, right. But he had made it out of the Miami traffic zone before.
Gee, what were they doing? Like,
well,
actually, literally,
so they were only able to catch him easily because of a picture of his license plate
that someone took,
was
right?
Captured by a civilian who saw him running away, which also you've got to keep in mind how like weird this is, right? So this was at it's not like Trump was giving a speech or something.
No, he was just golfing
at the golf course. To capture his license plates, you would have had to be outside of the golf course. So this is a civilian who heard gunshots in the golf course, was outside of the golf course, and had the presence of mind to take pictures of the plates of this guy.
Yeah.
That's kind of wild.
There's a lot of Karens out there. See a car driving slightly weird and got to take a picture of that license plate, send it to the authorities, even though the authorities never do anything per our other
Yeah, so what has this guy been charged with? He's been charged with possession of a firearm as a convicted felon and possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number. Not potentially trying to shoot the president, which is...
That's sweet.
Okay, pretty interesting.
Well, I mean, all we have is this cartoonish scene where people see at the end of a rifle poking out of a bush and then a guy running away. I guess that's not enough.
No, what I want to know is how after the last attempt did the Secret Service not take this guy down? They fired 5 shots at him. He was 300 feet away.
It was through bushes, Malcolm. They're, I'm sure, very dense bushes. The bushes are there for privacy.
They are not dense bushes. You can see them on video.
Oh, really?
The fact that, and I'll put the picture on screen here of where this guy was. The fact that the Secret Service couldn't shoot him, like the DEI BS of the Secret Service, because now it's like manned by a woman, and you know that a woman was not the most qualified person.
She hasn't resigned. I figured she would have resigned after the.
I'll see if she's resigned in post. She did, in fact, resign. Not that it really matters, because there hasn't been enough time to put a real person in charge of this and fire all the terrible DEI hires that were made under her command. No, they haven't really increased his details significantly since the last assassination attempt. And keep in mind, before that assassination attempt, the Democrats were trying to even further roll back his Secret Service details. Some senators were, to almost nothing, to basically attempt to get him assassinated. And I think that that's basically the zone we're in now, where they are trying to get this guy assassinated. But, sorry, what are you going to say?
How do you suppose this gentleman came to understand that Trump would be golfing at that time? Just he watched motorcades or something?
He does it every day.
Oh. Whoops.
Trump apparently has a pretty routine golf habit, so...
He's probably autistic, isn't he? He's tone deaf enough and routine enough, and with his dietary habits and his golf and his son.
Well, you know, he eats fast food at McDonald's to not be poisoned. And I think a lot of people...
Right, but also, doesn't he like the,
no, but hold on. A lot of people heard that and they're like, that's a crazy thing to do. When you now realize how little the Secret Service actually has his back, I'm like, that's not crazy at all. Like, that's probably the only reason he's alive.
Yeah, but also there's just a lot of things about him that seem autistic to me, like him thinking the White House is a shithole, because it's not his personal space. And it's old and kind of dirty.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the full White House into a museum, and I will live in a trailer behind the White House.
You would. You totally would.
No, I believe that the president needs to show a sign of austerity to the American people and a sign of generosity by giving his house to them. And I think that that would be a very positive signal and would keep me focused on the task at hand instead of indulging in this big mansion, which I do not think is befitting of the leader of the free world. I think that the leader of the free world should be living with a degree of elective
counter argument when dealing with foreign national leaders, it is important that we present a representative of our nation who comes across as formidable and someone who lives. And no, I'm not knocking on anyone who lives in a trailer right now, but I just would argue that the trappings of living in a trailer are not as formidable as the trappings of someone living in the White House.
I disagree really strongly on this point. I think that even in other countries, they understand the discipline of austerity and they respect it. And I think we saw this with the latest.
Yeah, but that means you sleep on the floor in the bowling alley. I mean, that's who was that? Was it Frederick the? It was a Frederick of Prussia, right? Who, sorry about Indy. It was who like was very austere. He was a Prussian king, wasn't he? Or was he Russian?
I don't remember.
You know who I'm talking about? Just incredibly like ate gruel every day. Amazing military leader, and was just insanely austere. But definitely was a king who did that.
In other words, Frederick William projected an air of hypermasculinity, Calvinist piety, and frugal financial habits. And naturally, he wanted his eldest surviving son, Frederick, nicknamed Fritz, to grow up to be just like him, a hyper-virile religious soldier king, to use the great instrument of Prussian military power that he'd created. Now, the first 6 years of Fritz's life, he'd lived with his mother. And under her care, young Fritz developed what his father considered worrying habits. Fritz loved music and books. He grew incredibly close to his older sister Wilhelmina, enjoyed poetry, philosophy, opera, and learned to play the flute. Worse than that, it was the transverse flute, recently invented in France. Oh, Frederick William hated France, and was known to fly into a rage if the country was even mentioned. The French, he said, were decadent and effeminate. So imagine his consternation when Fritz, who was tutored in French and German simultaneously, took to French as his first language and struggled with his native German.
But I think part of that was just his badassery in his austerity, but he didn't do stunts. And I think that a trailer stunt would in itself seem indulgent and non-austere.
No, because you're doing it with utility. Like, you're arguing that there's no utility gain from this. If you were able to turn the full White House into an accessible museum at all times of day, that is a great gift to the American people. You're acting like it's being done with no benefit or just for performative austerity, when it's not. This is something the American people should have always had access to and don't have access to. And you could choose the location of it to be something safer than the existing White House.
Oh, your trailer.
Down on security details. That the White House is in such an exposed location increases the cost of the security around it dramatically.
Or you could do some kind of Elon Musk homeless billionaire thing where you just crash on the couch of a foreign national leader every weekend. You know, every night you're like, hey, sleep on your couch. And then, you know, it develops international relations. You know, you build some rapport with these people, right? Yeah. Kind of forces it. Stay at congressmen's houses. You know, you're really building alliances. Actually, that would be cool. Is if you couch surfed with your domestic and international liaisons.
People would love hosting you.
That I'm for. I'm for couch surfing. I'm not for the trailer, but I am for the couch surfing.
I believe in living in solidarity.
Well, then couch surf. There's loads of homeless Americans who don't even have a trailer.
We're going to continue here with what happened to him after this, okay?
Fine. Yes, how did we get here? Good God.
So in his first appearance in a West Palm Beach federal courtroom, because he survived, he's
already in court. Jeez, it's been a day.
He was wearing a navy blue prison jumpsuit and shackles. He appeared subdued, respectful, and in good spirits. He could be seen laughing at times with his public defender.
Public defender, that's great. Okay.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about why he has a public defender, because that's actually pretty interesting as well.
He spent all his money on guns.
He has past felony charges.
Yeah.
He has a felony charge for possessing a weapon of mass destruction.
I thought just an automatic rifle, right?
Yeah, it was just an automatic rifle. So I'll recount the story here. December 2002, in Greensboro News and Record recounts an incident in which Rouse was pulled over during a traffic stop on Sunday night. He, quote, put his hand on a firearm, end quote, and drove to his roofing business, where he barricaded himself inside for 3 hours. The weapons of mass destruction charge pertain to a fully automatic machine gun, it reported. Just a fully automatic weapon. He was charged with several misdemeanors and felonies between 2001 and 2010, including a hit and run offense, carrying a concealed weapon, and possessing stolen goods. Separately, North Carolina judicial records list Rouse as the defendant in over half a dozen court cases between 1991 and 2016, including tax delinquencies and bad checks. So there's just a guy who wasn't making a lot of money. He made mistakes, but I mean, hit and run. This is one of these things where like maybe, but maybe not. I don't know. He just seems like a typical guy. This isn't like a driving while intoxicated or something, right? Which, by the way, who has one of those? Kamala Harris's VP, where you could have actually killed someone for like nothing. This is like a bunch of like random drug charges and somebody who's poor, struggling to get by type charges. Okay. So Mr. Rouse is particularly well known for being really, and his main cause and this thing that drove him to this is he is incredibly pro-Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And he is also pro-Palestine, which ick.
I didn't know. Okay.
He's pro-Palestine, he's pro-Taiwan, and he has a bunch of anti-Chinese messages on his profile.
Okay.
He actually accuses China of biological warfare for the COVID-19 virus, which he saw as an attack. And so this guy, he went to Ukraine to try to help them in the war. And I'll read some quotes about this.
Mm-hmm.
So Mr. Ross, who had no military experience, told the New York Times in 2023 that he had traveled to Ukraine immediately after Russia's invasion in 2022 to find military recruits among Afghan soldiers who had fled the Taliban. He seems to be involved in recruitment efforts as recently as this summer, writing on his Facebook in July, quote, "Soldiers, please do not call me. We are still trying to get Ukraine to accept Afghan soldiers and hope to have some answers in the coming months, ... Please have patience," end quote. And he was never, what ended up being the primary stumbling block for him is he had this plan to take people from struggling nations like Afghanistan, where like, you have corrupt governments and it's really bad to live there, and get them visas to live in Ukraine, which could be a marginally better country, in exchange for them fighting
Military service
war and pay around that, which honestly, like, if you believe in the Ukrainian cause, which I do, right? That's not stupid.
Yeah, but what I had thought he was doing, which I thought would be a little bit smarter, is to create a band of mercenary Americans who just want to go fight, who bring their own guns. That's why I thought he had an automatic firearm on almost like war tourism basis, because I feel like they
no. His plan, I mean, it's a better plan than the plan you just outlined.
Yeah, that is a more, like an actual like policy based
to take
plan
from a country that is worse off than Ukraine today,
and
where a lot of people have military experience,
and
to move them to Ukraine. And keep in mind, this was not his first plan. His first plan was to join the Ukrainian military himself.
Yeah,
but they wouldn't allow him when he arrived in Kyiv because he was, one, old, and two, didn't have military experience. And so then he tried the next best thing. So if you want to understand like why I respect this individual in a way, he's literally trying a bunch of logical things to achieve an objective he sees as morally right.
Well, and he's putting his money where his mouth is. Well, he's putting his life where his mouth is. He's really, when he sees a problem, he personally appears to do everything that he can to solve it, despite being a man of clearly limited means.
Yeah, and despite everyone working against him, he went to Ukraine. They told him no. He's like, "What? Okay, you need people with military experience. I'll find them for you in other countries, and I'll bring them here." And then
now that doesn't make it okay to attempt to shoot a former president.
Well, consider it from his perspective. Okay, I used to be, up until now, I've been fairly pro-Ukraine. I say this is the cheapest war America's ever caught. I'm not pro-Ukraine because I give a shit about Ukrainians. Okay, like Ukrainians, fine. Like, okay, but I don't think it's America's job to interfere with foreign countries and stuff like that. But Russia has been a persistent enemy to the United States for about a century now. And they have not signaled any willingness to abate that persistent threat status. And what did our parents go to Vietnam for? What did they go to Korea for? But to attempt to defang Russia on the international stage, Ukraine costs less for us in those wars, and we're not even sending our own people. The reason why my stance is flipped on Ukraine was I was actually convinced by J.D. Vance on this. He's basically takes a stance of, look, we've bled Russia enough. With their current fertility rates, they will never be a threat to anyone again. Can we just end the killing? Okay, can we just end the killing now? And that's when I'm like, you know what? You're right. The incremental loss of life. Like if this war goes on for another 5 years, realistically, where is it going to end in 5 years?
Just a lot more people will be dead. Yeah.
Just a lot more people will be dead. And maybe one side will have 20% more land than they have today. I do not think that's a good equation.
Well, and also it's unclear which side too. So
yeah, just end it, end the killing. Okay. But he doesn't see that way. He believed, I can see the logic behind this. If we allow a country to unjustly invade another country, right, and take their land, can they just keep going? Right? Like if their fear is quote unquote NATO, well, now they have justification to attack all sorts of other countries, right? Like Transnistria, definitely. You know, there's a lot of
Transnistria. I'm sorry.
Name of it, right? That's the region next to Ukraine that they would move to next. They already have a Russian public government operational.
I see.
They actually leaked plans accidentally that they did plan to invade it after Ukraine. So yeah, I mean, we're just dealing with one country after another. If Russia feels like they won this war, the problem is they've depleted their military capacity in terms of humans, and they're not producing more. Russian women aren't having kids. They have an incredibly low fertility rate. They can't replace the soldiers that they've lost. They've lost a generation. Okay, there's not gonna be another war with Russia. They don't have the tech to fight anyone else. They are dealing with children's level technology at this point. Okay, it's a bunch of Soviet nonsense that they're slightly upgrading. Their fleet is basically non-operational. They can't operate. I mean, Ukrainians can basically just put explosives on an AI-operated jet ski and take out anything now. Like, the nature of war has changed. All of their stockpiles are useless. They don't matter anymore. Do we need to keep this going? But I understand his perspective. If we're approaching this with his perspective, assassinating Trump is probably the single number one thing you could do to move the needle, because Trump is going to kill peace. He's going to push it for an end of the killing.
Right. So this guy sees Trump say things like, if I'm elected, I'm just going to make a few calls, and even before I'm in office, I'm going to end this war. And he thinks, oh, great, he's going to get some kind of major concession of land. That's not cool. Ukraine all the way. And I have to end this guy. And he did, by the way, if I understand correctly, claim to have voted for Trump at one point, but then come to regret it. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I mean, this guy, and people use this to say that he's like pro-Trump. He voted for Trump 2 election cycles ago. The party's
in 2016. Okay, so he did not vote for Trump in 2020.
No. He is an absolutely dyed-in-the-wool Democrat, what we call Democrat these days, i.e. pro-urban monoculture individual.
Pro-Palestine, yeah.
Yeah, he's pro-Palestine, he's pro-Ukraine. He's not like based where he has like conflicting opinions. He's just in line with the urban monoculture on every single step.
Well, and the blue hair. The blue hair is the rallying cry stylistically of far left membership.
I didn't see the blue hair in recent pictures. Did you see this? And I was looking and I tried to look for it.
Are you serious? The
I'll
picture of him wearing
his blue hair, but
I think it's called a flak jacket and a little bandana, and half of his hair is white, and then roughly 25 to 28% of it is blue.
Yeah, by the way, fans of our show today, and I hope to become more famous as time goes on, you'll get to say you started following me before my hair turned white. We recently did a haircut, and I noticed just how much of my hair. I've been getting, white hairs for a while now.
Oh, no, but this latest backyard shear definitely
it was like getting close to like 20%. I know you can't see it in my actual hair because the rest of my hair is so well colored. But people in
Because
my
your
family
locks are so
generally get
luscious and thick. Yes.
pure white hair at a fairly young age. We
You're gonna be
never
a
have
silver
like hair
fox.
recession, or the amount of hair
Yeah.
we have doesn't go down, but we get pure white hair.
Oh,
You like it though. You've seen like my dad.
love
He's
it.
got
It's
like
so
a
hot.
big full head of white hair.
I just know even fictional characters with white hair, it just gets me. I'm very excited for this. I'm so jealous because my hair will never be white. It will be brown forever and then ever so slightly gray.
I don't think I have more than 8 years before I go full white.
I know. I'm so excited.
So I'll be looking young and just have jet white hair, which I'm excited
This is why
about.
you're not allowed to get assassinated. Where will I get white-haired Malcolm if you somehow get assassinated? Don't do it. Okay. Just
so when questioned by the judge, he said he had quote unquote zero funds in his bank account, and that he was living off of a monthly income of $3,000. His only assets, he told the court, were 2 trucks in Hawaii that were worth about $1,000 each. So the $3,000, nobody has any idea where it's come from yet. So I'm just going to make a note of that. His recent address is listed in Hawaii, but he spent most of his time in North Carolina, according to property records. Rouse owned a Camp Box Honolulu, a shed building company. It also built tiny homes, according to a LinkedIn profile. And he studied at the North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, which he graduated in 1998.
By the way, I'm sending you on WhatsApp the picture of him with partially blue hair, just so you know I'm not crazy. Because he totally...
And by the way, he referenced, if you're talking about him in relation to other assassinations, so it's clear that he planned this assassination attempt to make sure that there couldn't be any bystanders who were killed. In reference to the last assassination attempt, he asked Kamala and Biden to go and go to the people who were killed's families' funerals and to see if there was anything they could do for them, because he didn't think that Trump would do anything for them. And so, like, clearly he saw that. Now, I don't know if he would have done that had that not happened with the other assassination attempt, but I think he saw it and he was like, I don't want to go out doing something like that.
Okay.
And from what we know now, the other assassin was a clout chaser. And that was the primary motivator. When Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, here's a quote from him. "I'm coming to Ukraine from Hawaii to fight for your kids and families and democracy. I will come and die for you," end quote. So he shared a photo of himself in Kiev, Ukraine's capital. You know, it's quite hard for men of fighting age to leave Ukraine. So like going into this, he is fully committed. And he says then later, quote, "My initial goal was to fight, but I'm 56. So initially they were like, I have no military experience. So they were like, you're not an ideal candidate. So they said, you're not right this minute. So plan B was to come here to Kiev and promote getting more people here," end quote. Quote, "This is about good versus evil," end quote. And so he urged people, even those who didn't have military skills, to take up arms for Ukraine. He offered to help connect them with military units. He was interviewed by several news organizations, including the New York Times and Simford in 2023. He told Simford that he had not been able to convince...
Isn't that pronounced semaphore?
Semaphore, I don't know. Quote, "to issue one single visa," end quote, for soldiers. It is not clear whether he actually ever had contact with the ministry. Now, the ministry said he has no contact with the unit, but they actually go more into detail in this in just a second. CBS News foreign correspondent Holly Williams immediately recognized Rouse's name when she woke up in London on Monday to the news of his arrest. She'd been in contact with him for more than a year in the early stages of the war in the Ukraine, which she covered extensively. It was one of the flyers he had posted around Kiev offering to help other foreigners get deployed with Ukrainian battalions that initially caught Williams' eye and prompted her to get in touch with him. They spoke at least once on the phone and texted frequently. Rouse put William in touch with several foreign fighters, and she said he seemed very genuine and passionate about supporting Ukraine in its battle to fend off Russia's invasion. But Williams said Rouse, at times, seemed fairly naive, including when he spoke of his ambition to help bring thousands of Afghan and Syrian refugee fighters to the Ukrainian war effort. Rouse told the New York Times in 2023 that he was seeking recruits among Afghan soldiers who fled the Taliban, aiming to purchase passports through Pakistan, since it's such a corrupt country, and move them, in some cases illegally, into Ukraine from Pakistan and Iran. The Times described Rouse as a, quote, "former construction worker from Greensboro, North Carolina, who spent several months in Ukraine last year," end quote. The same month, he complained to Semaphore, however it's pronounced, about the Ukrainian government's lack of support, saying that they're being overly rigid about admitting foreign soldiers, especially from Afghan, over concerns that they might be Russian spies. Quote, I have had partners meeting with Ukrainian military's defense every week and still not been able to get them to agree to one single visa. But unfortunately, a representative from Ukraine's Foreign Legion told CNN that he had reached out to them several times online, but, quote, was never part of the Legion and didn't cooperate in any way, end quote, end quote. The best way I can describe his message is delusional ideas, end quote. So, and then, quote, he was offering us large numbers of recruits from different countries, but it was obvious to us that his offers were not realistic. We didn't answer, and there was nothing to answer to, end quote.
Yeah, this is it seems like upstart, optimistic, values-driven person repeatedly rubbing up against the logistical corruption of bureaucracies, which could probably utilize his help if they weren't so rigid in the way they operated.
Absolutely. Yeah, his plan was not stupid, but he wasn't able to implement it. And like, if they're worried about Russian spies, then create specific battalions with the units he's bringing over from Afghanistan. There are genuinely people after the Taliban who took over of military experience trained by the US military in Afghanistan who would be useful in a situation like this. Like, the pure reason they were turning his nose at this was bureaucratic uncreativity in terms of handling this.
Yeah. Well, that's the frustrating thing about many bureaucracies is that even if you want to help, if you cannot help through the specific and correct channel with the correct certifications and paperwork, then you simply cannot participate, which is a huge loss to human productivity and development.
Yeah, I don't think I'm that much crazy. Like, if I had less access to resources than I have, or less access to public respect than I have, and I needed to get people to pay attention to certain topics, could I be seen as crazy as this guy in a different timeline?
You're probably seen as more crazy than this guy. He did not try to start a religion.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. I'm definitely more crazy than him. So like, I'm like, I look at him and I'm just like, he was trying his best to live out his moral thesis. I believe that he became overly attached to this Ukraine idea and just kept looking for solutions instead of seeing that they fought for long enough. The purpose of them resisting is over now when fertility rates are considered.
I do think, though, that his act and the act of the other attempted assassin, would-be assassin of former President Donald Trump, is that this indicates an Overton window shift in the way that people view acceptable actions of protest. I think that and you see this also in crime, which we discussed in another recent episode. We've entered an age in which it is seen as appropriate to take violent and drastic action if you believe that you are morally justified in doing so. That it is okay to steal, that it is okay to attempt to kill, that it is okay to engage in election wiggles if you believe the cause is just. And it scares me because in the past, there was a lot more respect for civil society and for rules and institutions. I don't blame people, though, for kind of declaring bankruptcy on institutions now and saying we have to take matters into our own hands because they've become corrupted in a meaningful way. So people trusted institutions more in the past because the institutions worked, and they're not working anymore. So people are taking matters into their own hands. But it's still scary that we live in a society in which that is.
Well, I mean, I'm going to try to get the clip now because one of our fans got it for us of a popular show where Democrats basically say, yeah, it's okay to create election fraud.
3 weeks ago, Henry Roberts raised $6 million in dark money to fund an off-the-books guerrilla oppo operation. He asked me to run it. Nobody seems to be willing to do what is necessary.
And what's that?
Whatever it takes. Democrats act like this is the 90s, and they're working under the old rules. The new rules are these: attack, lie, don't get caught. Machiavelli wrote The Prince for the rulers. Well, we're rewriting it for us.
we need to have more problems with our erections because they're just not, you know, we can't trust Republicans, so we have to do it preemptively. Now, here's another interesting thing. This guy had 2 kids. And so his kids have spoken on this afterwards.
Holy, wait, whoa, sorry, that's just sinking in. He has children. How old are they? They must be grown.
They're grown,
right?
Yeah.
Or at least, I mean, I don't know. Someone in their 50s probably is 20-somethings.
They don't seem grown, but they seem honestly like super respectable people. So Orrin, one of his sons, told CNN, quote, "It's not like his father to do anything crazy, much less violent," end quote. And quote, "I don't have any comment beyond a character profile of him as a loving and caring father, an honest, hardworking man," end quote. And he told the Daily Mail that his dad hates Trump, but stressed that he is not a violent person and said he's never known him to own a gun, following up later in text. Quote, "I hate this game every 4 years and think that we all do. And if my father wants to be a martyr to how broken and disassociated the process has become from the real problems and practical solution, that's his choice," end quote.
What
Right?
a bro son.
That's
love
a
that.
bro son.
Yeah, man.
And keep in mind, you're hearing this from us Trump supporters. This guy was a cliche Democrat, but at least he really valued the things he said he valued.
Yeah.
I have heard so many Democrats these days where they're like, I value X and I value Y.
And they
And
just
X
got
and
hurt.
Y are like crazy, delusional nonsense. This guy was like, I don't want a country to just be able to invade like a peaceful neighbor and try to take them over. Like, that's a cause that I can understand his mental calculation.
Okay, but he also supports Palestine.
He also supports Palestine, which, okay.
But he also supports Taiwan. So I don't know. I mean, whatever. He seems like a very well-meaning
watch
guy.
our episode as to the sexification of evil. Like when and why did we start to sexualize evil in our society? And I do think within this urban monoculture moral framework, the more low power a group is, the more high morality
value.
they are.
Yeah.
It is not really possible. And you can see this in every one of these conflicts. He's supporting the weaker party, not the more just party, the weaker party.
Yeah. Okay. Which is it's a very progressive leftist view, which I get. It's also depending on which faction. The many Christian factions kind of also hold that. You know.
Actually, this is sort of the way I see things, right? Like, where do people break down on which side they support? He, in every one of these instances, supports the weaker party. In some instances, I see individuals who always support the stronger party in every one of these 3 potential conflicts. And then in some instances, I see people, and this is where we fall, do you support the more civilized party or do you support the less civilized party? Where if you support the more civilized party, then it's, you know, Ukraine and Israel.
Hold on. No. Universally progressive see, and in this same show, The Good Fight that you were referring to earlier, where they were like, oh, it's justified to have election wiggles because, you know, the other side is just that bad. Republicans are seen as the inherently uncivilized and very stupid and uneducated party. In fact, another common theme of that show is just how dumb anyone who supports Trump, with the exception of one character, is. So all Trump appointed judges, the plot line with all their court cases is pretty much just like, how do we dumb this down for them? Let's make a cartoon for our plea. Let's hire actors to react to them in a way that manipulates them. Let's do all sorts of things like that. So I don't think your argument about the cultured or the civilized party works. I think it is very common for any group to dehumanize the other side. And they see us equally.
No, I think you're wrong about this. I think that when they are looking at foreign powers, they think that the lack of civilized, like being well, we can talk about it, but I've definitely seen along Marxist lines, individuals who both support, like the tankies, they both support Russia and Palestine.
Oh,
this is definitely a faction that exists.
Yeah, well, you can get a faction that supports pretty much any permutation. Now, what I'm curious is if you think this will affect the 2024 U.S. presidential election or not. In the betting odds, we've seen basically zero change, or 1% change, whereas with the first assassination attempt, we saw a roughly 11% change. So I don't know, we've normalized to it, and this is the new school shooting, you know, just another one.
Taking shots.
Baby! Oh, you're okay.
Hey, Mom.
It's all right, Stanley. We will get through this as a family. Stanley, well, do you want to tell your father about what happened at school today?
I flunked my math quiz.
No, the other thing.
Oh, the school shooting?
Yes, the school shooting.
Oh, yeah, some kid shot up the school.
Who shot up the school? Was it you?
No.
Did you get shot?
No.
Oh. Well, what's this about failing a math quiz?
Well, okay, so I also want to note here that this guy's book, which was a 291-page self-published book.
Oh, it's out there. We can get it on Amazon.
Titled Ukraine's Unwinnable War, The Fatal Flaw of Democracy, World Abandonment, and the Global Citizen Taiwan, Afghan, North Korea, and the End of Humanity is what the book is titled.
Okay. That's a title. That's a mouthful.
One thing I found interesting in the comments that was suggested, and I don't know if this works for presidents because you need to make, international things, but I actually quite like this idea for local politicians, is they said that the way that you could end a lot of the corruption that we're seeing in terms of like actually trying to clean up cities is you make a law that mayors cannot have protection details when they're walking around their cities.
Well, then they would just stop walking around their cities.
Well, their cities need to be safe.
They barely walk around their cities as it is. I don't think that would be very effective. If you want to stop corruption in politics, no longer allow for any political donations, like aside from citizen donations under $50.
Was, and I don't know if I told you about this, was the idea that whenever a president leaves his second term in office, he's executed. There is only people who are willing to give their lives to the role are willing to take the role. So if you are running for president, you're not running for potential benefits afterwards. You're not running for long-term ego. It's only if you are literally willing to give your life for this position, because I think that would lead to much higher action. Now, I don't know if that's as realistic, but I have some government plans drawn out and we'll see how those work.
It's so funny. Our other friends who have dreams of running for president that they consider extreme and crazy are like, well, I would run on one platform issue, and that is to turn all tax returns into a one-page return, which is dreamy, but also like, pretty violent considering how corrupt the tax life.
Well, you know who's going to hate that? What's that? The Tax Pro or whatever, that app that literally has a contract. TurboTax has a contract with the U.S. government.
No. You don't understand how corrupt the U.S. tax system is. Literally, there are parts. There are certain, for example, nonprofit tax filings. We had to make a different type of nonprofit tax filing for the Pragmatist Foundation after we received that larger grant from the Survival and Flourishing Fund. And we had to fill out a more detailed one. I downloaded the form and I completed it. I did all the things. And then I needed to file it. Well, there was no place for me to file it. There was no place I could mail it. And so I contacted the IRS, which is our tax body in the United States. And I said, well, where do I send the form? I downloaded it. I completed it. They're like, oh, you can only submit it online. I'm like, okay, great. Where's the website? They're like, no. You have to submit it through an authorized tax filer. And I say, oh, okay. So I have to go to a company that is authorized to work with
$500 if we were going to submit it.
And not only that, I was like, okay, fine. I'll pay someone a token amount to submit the already completed form. Maybe I can get a discount from their support team or something. I was willing to play the game. No, that was not an option. I had to completely go through their entire software and do the entire thing over again and then submit it. And so I have to pay a private organization that has obviously lobbied the government and filled out a bunch of paperwork and filled their own filing forms and paid all this stuff to get in with the government to pay the government money. Well, as a nonprofit, I'm not even paying the government money. So maybe that's what's going on, is I'm not paying them enough. But it's amazing how corrupt our system is. It isn't just TurboTax, but this is why this could never happen. We can't engage in tax reform.
Taken down. As a company, I was running for federal office.
TurboTax is because for those who are not in the United States, TurboTax is a private organization that is an intense lobbyist to the United States government that sort of has cornered a large proportion of the tax filing market in the United States.
They've intentionally made tax filing more complicated so that you cannot file it without their product.
Right. And then there's a lot of other private interests that have lobbied for all sorts of unique tax loopholes, so that even further complicates US tax code. There are all these weird deductions and rules and loopholes. And so basically people with money and resources and organizations that make money from people who are forced to navigate this incredibly complex system have made it such that there is no hope of reforming or simplifying US tax code, which is...
Well, I mean, remember the 999 plan? I love that politician, by
I
the
don't
way.
remember the 999.
So it was a black politician in the original...
The rent is too damn high guy?
Yeah, no.
Oh.
This was like the legit guy who was actually top of Republican polling for a pretty long period. I think this was in the initial Trump election. He ran like Papa John's pizzas.
Cool.
I'll add it in post. Herman Cain is the candidate I was thinking of. He was, I think, in an alternate timeline, as crazy and amazing a president as Trump was. I loved him so effing much. He was like my guy as a candidate. So he wanted 9% income tax, 9% sales tax, and 9% business tax across everything, flat tax. And one of my favorite things about him is he goes, and to quote a famous poet, and then he went through the lyrics of a song from the Pokemon movie. And it appears that he might not have known he was doing this.
I believe these words came from the Pokemon movie. The media pointed that out. I'm not sure who the original author is, so don't go write an article about the poem. But it says a lot about where I am with my wife and my family, and where we are as a nation. Life can be a challenge. Life can seem impossible. It's never easy when there's so much on the line. But you and I can make a difference.
No, that's so
This
good.
guy
so
is
good.
my hero.
Why did he not? Oh, this makes me so sad. I thought we lived in the best possible
The craziest timeline? No.
We don't live in the best
crazier
possible
timeline. This guy ended up winning, and I love him.
Oh, man.
But anyway,
that's... But you're never gonna, I mean, like 999 is, like German. No. I always make my phone extensions when I can choose them 999, because I just want like no calls. But I don't know. The word needs some.
You're way too into Simone. You too frequently use the term Lebensraum.
Yeah.
For my liking, you're always like, well, we need more Lebensraum.
Well, no, it's when our kids are in my face. I'm like, get out of my face. I need more Lebensraum. If people are going to call us Nazis, I just want to keep using like Nazi references. But then you always point out that someone's going to misconstrue it, and like.
They are.
Yes. I'm like walking around our house and I'm like, man, like this, our garbage bag storage bin is just getting too messy. I need a solution, a final solution. And it just... Oh.
Simone, you are going to get us so in trouble one day.
There is one famous person we've met, though, where I made like a Nazi reference, and he got that I was making a joke, and it made me feel so validated and okay. Because at least
who was this?
The one person. Certainly.
Okay, that guy? Okay, yeah, we can't say.
But yeah,
like at least asleep?
Yes, it was when you were asleep.
Oh, you're so sweet. I really appreciate you. I'm sorry. That is one of the biggest mistakes in my life.
No, because you would have passed out anyway. It was too late. But yeah, no, I hate that I can't make Nazi jokes. Because the one thing that Jews always do, at least they did in the days of Mel Brooks movies, was make Nazi jokes.
It's springtime for a hip.
Like, I don't get, and I'm probably Jewish. So, like, technically, like...
She means matrilineally Jewish. Yeah. We've been looking at getting it approved with a Jewish state, but I just realized, like, we actually don't have, like... I
don't have time to go through
records as mine. We could do it if we really had time, but I just don't care. I care a little bit, but not enough to spend, like, multiple full
It seems
phase
so
on this.
tedious going through all this.
And now
record.
we're at a state where it's pretty clear to us that's what it's going to come to. If
Well,
we
and
want to prove it.
who cares if I'm actually Jewish or not? We love Jews and we love Jewish.
Yeah, but I've also realized I'm not going to let my kids, like earlier we did a video where we were raising our kids was like Jewish religion alongside religion.
Yeah.
And we've moved further and further away from that as time has gone
I don't
on.
know. I mean, I'm still bullish on them doing some Jewish holidays.
But here's the problem. Judaism has been far, far, far too conquered by its mystical side. And like, I just don't know how much actual Judaism is left.
Well, you know, if your stance on mysticism it holds, if your theories around mysticism hold, the mystic side will not flourish over the long term. And in the end,
right. But if you allow it to conquer, it can destroy an entire culture like it did with Islam in the
I think that there will always be a faction of non-mystic Jews or mystic Jews who turn non-mystic when they discover that mysticism is not good for them or not working out. That will.
Yeah. So when people understand what I mean here, look, it was Christianity, right? Christianity was Judaism, and then we added, you know, some additional texts, and it becomes a new religion. You add the New Testament, it becomes a new religion. And then, you know, with Islam, then you add, you know, the Quran, and it becomes a new religion. And then Judaism, you know, what was it, 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, they added a new text long after the other religions, the Kabbalah literature. And it doesn't become a new religion. Why? So when people hear me like install Judaism, I am installing the
non-mystical Judaism.
Yes, the iterations of Judaism that are antagonistic to Kabbalistic tradition.
Now, you've made it clear that pretty much every major religion has factions that you admire and factions that you don't, and that's fine.
But I don't want to. I mean, we do have to. People are like, "Oh, why do you spend so much time in some tracks like arguing that you're not explicitly anti-Semitic?" And it's like, well, it's because a lot of people are going to try to paint us that way. Because
I don't know. Don't people see us as overly?
Well, yeah, some people see us as overly filio-Semitic, which I guess we are.
I would say we are. When you look at our friends, when you look at the religious histories that we find most fascinating, religious groups that we think are flourishing, that we think everyone can learn a lot from.
Yeah,
groups that we generally respect a lot for their achievements broadly. Come on, but whatever. I think that there's a long history of great Jewish comedians, and one of the things that comedians turn to a lot is super controversial and not okay subjects, including anti-Semitism. And maybe one of the issues with anti-Semitism these days is that Jews stop joking about it, and suddenly everyone's getting all anti-Semitic, and we can't make fun of them anymore. So what's going on, guys? I don't know. Again, we need a solution to this problem.
Are you a final solution?
Yes, Malcolm.
You are the worst, Simone.
I love you.
I love you too. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
All right. So for dinner tonight, do we have leftovers from yesterday for the meat?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and it appears we have leftovers of rice as well.
A little bit of meat and a little bit of fried rice. I figure it's just the perfect one portion serving.
Yeah,
maybe with some steam buns, like.
No, if you're adding anything to it, I got some potatoes today. If
you got potatoes,
either the potatoes or the
you got potatoes at Trader Joe's.
Yes, it's a mix of cut potatoes with like some like French like mushrooms and like some other things.
One of the frozen bags.
It's one of the frozen bags. So if you cook a little bit of that, I think that would go really well with what I'm eating today.
Okay. So is it okay? Do you want me to stir fry everything together? Is that okay? Or do I have to do everything separately? Because I'm just thinking like 3 pans versus 1 pan for me in terms of cleanup.
That works. That works. Whatever you think is best. Start with the frozen thing and then add the other stuff in later.
Hi. Okay. Hi. I will do that.
I love you.
I love you too. God.
You need to stop being so gay, okay? Because you're being pretty gay right now.
I will always be gay for you, Malcolm. And nobody else. God, I love you. I really like our chats. So thanks for this. All right, I'm coming down.
How do we keep it fresh? Some people said they don't like our new stuff, by the way. They say we're becoming too algorithm driven, and like, yeah, but I'm winning at the algorithm right now. So, off.
Well, yeah, if they want to send droves of people to us,
yeah. We got 5,000 subscribers in the last month alone. Like, yeah, I'm algorithm driven now. I figured it out. Okay.
Well, yeah, maybe the opinion of those 5,000 people matters a little bit more than the opinion of that one complainer. But also keep in mind, like when it comes to user studies of any change of any product online, for example, any change is seen
changing
antagonistically.
Or would you like to know more to a theme song intro?
But then they will always start with, would you like to know more, and move into the theme song, right?
Maybe.
It should.
It
should. Okay. I really need to get up. I'm just having a baby on your lap is like having a cat on your lap. I don't think you have you ever had a cat on your lap in your life?
Where they don't? Yeah, I used to have
where they
cats.
fall asleep and then you can't get up because they're on
my
your lap.
cats weren't like loving cats.
Oh,
they were murdery cats.
Murdery cats. You sure you didn't accidentally adopt a possum or something?
So my mom wanted to be as posh as possible, so she got something called Bengal cats, which
are Bengal cats are famously friendly.
No, ours were not famously friendly. They were little. So they were like a breed where its bred was like wildcats of some kind. I think some form of wildcat from Africa. I don't know, not like a panther or something, but something like that, right?
Like a bobcat.
Yeah, something like an African variety of bobcat. Yeah, from Bengal. Yeah, and so they're very hunting focused. I remember one year we got really punished because all the Christmas presents were like torn in too early, and it turned out that it was our cats, and our parents recognized this after punishing us.
I mean, considering your track record, then probably every other thing was your fault. Like I could see.
Well, I was like, I would have been more tactful about it. I wouldn't just rip the packaging.
This is why you had so many problems as a kid. Every time someone blamed you for something, you're like, well, if I really wanted to do it, I would do this. And then suddenly you get expelled.
Yeah, this genuinely got me in trouble so many times. I'd get accused of like doing X, and I'd be like, no, if I was going to do X, I'd do it this way. And it was always so much more like this is one of the things when I got kicked out of the first school I got kicked out of. They were like, oh, we think that you would do like X to harm other students. And I was like offended because like Columbine had just happened and they were like just looking for any weird kid. And I was like, excuse me, sir. Here are ways I could kill everyone in this school without anyone being able to respond. Those kids were being idiots. They couldn't get a damn bomb to work. A pipe bomb? That's not difficult. And I started going through like sketching through how that could work, how you could create gases by mixing, various cleaning fluids that could pretty easily gas a room before people noticed. I started
very good point though. Oh God, no. Yeah, that's we won't talk about how to do that, but yeah, that's very easy to do.
But you don't insult my intelligence, okay? You don't say that I'm some savage who's just gonna go out there shooting people.
This is what we have to look forward to with our children. Our children are already showing karma with being such picky eaters, and I was a famously picky eater. They're going to be just as anti-authoritarian and difficult in larger bureaucracies as you are.
I love you.
I love you too. Bye, Malcolm.
Have a good one.
Karate chop.
Oh no, are you teaching her karate moves?
Teaching her how to be part of our Secret Service. So she yeah. But she will make sure that when someone shoots at you, they still shoot and they just tastefully nick you right here. You got to have that.
I love it.
That perfect scar.
So mad that he got nicked in the ear on the first
No, but he didn't know. Everyone wants like that face scar that makes you look badass.
Oh, yeah, I want
that. But it needs to be in just the right place. So the perfect Secret Service person, yes, lets them shoot. Makes sure that they shoot in exactly the right angle that gives you the badass scar, and then gives you enough time to do what they did with Trump, where he did his little like, fight.
Yeah, they gotta let me up for the fight. Or while they're holding me down, they shoot me just in case it misses. So that
yeah. You couldn't really tell. Yeah, there's all the crossfire, people shooting back at the attempting assassin. So who would know? They could just argue, and then
progressives are like, oh, it's not a bullet wound, it's shrapnel. Oh, it's
well, yeah, because shrapnel so much less badass. Although it's way more damaging in many cases. I mean, I think most people who have shrapnel wounds wish that they were shot with a bullet.
No, it's like, oh, the president he wasn't assassinated. The shrapnel killed him. Like,
Oh yeah, well yeah, shrapnel never hurt anyone. I mean,
oh my gosh.
yeah.
What do they think it is? Like foam balls being thrown at you? Like,
Ow. Well, come on, everyone even knows that shrapnel's a big deal because of Iron Man. Still makes you look cool.
Oh yeah, because it's heart, right?
That was the whole point. The whole point. The shrapnel.
The shrapnel. I want like a progressive who's constantly, whenever Iron Man is like, well, and I have this situation with my heart, and they're like, it's only shrapnel.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, Kamala Harris is so prepared as a candidate. You know, everything is boxed, everything's written for her. I hope that her team has prepared her with what she would do to look badass if someone attempted to assassinate her. I mean, no doubt she has received plenty of death threats as well. So hopefully she has her rehearsed thing.
I feel like I am the type of person when running for president that I'm going to get a tasteful assassination attempt for one of our supporters. To just
there you go, sir.
Give me a good visible nick here or something like that, so I can
this is how you get your jaw shot off by mistake, Malcolm. Don't.
No, whatever happens, I'm gonna look great coming out of this. You have no idea.
No, for the record, do not and Malcolm, no.
We get enough death threats already.
Yeah, but they're all gonna hit you with a baseball bat. That's a go-to.
Oh, that's what they say?
Well, because progressives don't really own guns.
I mean, the core thing that obviously they're going to try to do is turn our kids against us. Like, that's what they keep saying.
Yeah.
That's the core fantasy.
Joke's on them. They're already turned against us. They constantly rebel.
Yeah, I don't think they know what they're getting their hands on. I know the moment one of our kids, they'll be like, okay, we'll bring you in and we'll turn you against your parents. And then the kids running the group was in like a month and doing some crazy thing with it.
It would backfire. The problem is if they tried to get them to do anything, the kids would subvert it somehow because that's what they do with any attempt that we ever make.
Yeah. So we've worked on the counter brainwashing already, guys. You got nothing here. Okay. So I'll get started. All right, Simone?
Let's do it.
I love her idly playing with your thing, looking at your face. She's figuring out stuff.
She is. She's coming online.
Right.